The council room was quiet as Ambassador Krelnor played the message one more time. Everyone listened carefully. The voices on the recording sounded scared and tired. This is Salus Prime Colony calling for help. The Korthian Dominion has surrounded us. Our shields are breaking down. We need military help right now. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need you. Krelnor looked around the room at all the other ambassadors. His hands shook a little. The Valerians were peaceful people. They came from a world where everything was safe and beautiful. They did not know much about war. Their military was small and mostly for show. Now one of their colonies was going to die and nobody seemed ready to help. The Korthians have 20 big warships around Salus Prime. Krelnor explained to everyone. They want us to surrender everything. They want to take our colony and make it theirs. If we don't give up, they will start shooting. We have maybe 3 days before our shields fail completely. After that, the colony will be defenseless. The other ambassadors started talking among themselves. Some looked worried. Others looked away. Nobody wanted to fight the Korthian Dominion. The Korthians were strong and aggressive. They had been taking over systems for many years. Their military was one of the strongest in this part of space. A representative named Mira spoke up. She was tall and thin, with skin you could almost see through. What about the hegemony? Don't they have to help us? We have an agreement with them. Krelnor shook his head slowly. The hegemony fleet is too far away. It will take them 3 weeks to get to Salus Prime. They said they will send a complaint to the Korthians, but that's all they can do right now. By the time their ships arrive, it will be too late. The colonists will already be dead or captured. Everyone started talking louder now. 3 weeks was way too long. The colony would not last 3 days, let alone 3 weeks. The Korthians would either force them to surrender or destroy them. Either way, Salus Prime would be lost. Then an old diplomat named Vera spoke. Her body was made of crystal-like material that caught the light. She had been alive for a very long time and knew many things. There is one option we have not tried yet. We could ask the humans for help. The room went completely silent. Everyone stared at Vera like she had said something crazy. Humans. The species from that terrible planet called Earth. They had only joined the galactic community 30 years ago, but everyone had heard stories about them. Scary stories. Earth was what the galaxy called a death world. It was a planet that tried to kill everything living on it. There were dangerous animals everywhere. The weather could kill you. The ground could shake and destroy cities. The oceans could rise up and wash away everything. Even tiny creatures too small to see could make you sick and kill you. And somehow humans survived all of that. More than survived. They became the dominant species on their planet. Krelnor felt his heart beat faster. You want to call the humans? Are you serious? They are barely civilized. They spent thousands of years fighting each other on their world. War is natural to them. They think violence is normal. They are dangerous. Yes, they are dangerous, Vera said calmly. That is exactly why we should call them. They have a small fleet stationed in the outer rim. It would only take them 6 days to reach Salus Prime. That's fast enough. And if anyone can fight the Korthians, it's the humans. They know war better than any species in the galaxy. Another representative named Yolvan stood up quickly. But what if they turn on us? What if they save the colony and then take it for themselves? Humans don't think like we do. They grew up on a world where everything wanted to kill them. Violence is their first choice, not their last one. We could be trading one enemy for another. Vera looked at Yolvan with her ancient eyes. I know the risks. I know humans are unpredictable. But think about our choices. If we do nothing, the Korthians will take Salus Prime and probably kill everyone there. If we wait for the hegemony, the same thing will happen. The humans are our only chance to save those colonists. Yes, they might want something in return. Yes, they might be difficult to deal with. But at least our people will be alive to worry about those problems. The council argued for hours. Some ambassadors were afraid of the humans. Others were afraid of doing nothing. Finally, they took a vote. It was close, but the decision was made. They would contact the human fleet and ask for help. Krelnor sat down at the communication console. He had to write a message that would convince the humans to help without making them think they could take advantage of the situation. He thought carefully about every word. After several tries, he sent this message. To the human fleet in Sector 7. This is Ambassador Krelnor of the Valerian Assembly. We are asking for your help as friends and potential allies. Our colony at Salus Prime is under attack by the Korthian Dominion. We need ships, soldiers, and military support. Please respond if you can help us. Then they waited. Krelnor did not know what to expect. Would the humans even answer? Would they care about a colony of aliens they barely knew? Would they demand payment or territory in exchange for help? 4 hours later, the response came. It was short and direct. A human voice spoke clearly. Ambassador Krelnor, this is Admiral Kyle Morrison of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. We received your message. We are coming to Salus Prime right now. We will be there in 5 days. Tell your people to hold on. Morrison out. Krelnor felt relief wash over him. The humans were coming. They had not asked for anything. They had not demanded to know what they would get in return. They just said they were coming to help. That was good news, but relief was mixed with fear. The humans were bringing their fleet. Their warships. Their weapons designed for the brutal conflicts of Earth. Krelnor remembered all the stories he had heard about human military technology. It was built to survive and fight on a planet where everything was trying to kill you. What would weapons like that do to the Korthians? What would they do to anyone who got in their way? Vera walked over to stand beside him. You look worried, she said. I am, Krelnor admitted. We just invited a Deathworld species to solve our problems with violence. What if we can't control what happens next? We can't control it, Vera said quietly. But we made our choice. The humans are coming and they are bringing their war machine with them. All we can do now is hope they are on our side, not just looking for an excuse to show their strength. Krelnor sent an urgent message to Salus Prime. He told them help was coming in 5 days. He told them to keep their shields up and stay safe. He did not tell them who was coming to help. He thought it might scare them more than comfort them. As he left the council room that night, Krelnor looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, a human fleet was moving toward Salus Prime at high speed. Ships built for war, crews trained for combat, weapons designed by a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of destruction. They had asked for allies. They had asked for help and support. But Krelnor had a feeling that what was coming was something much more intense than that. The Deathworlders were coming, and they were not coming to negotiate. They were coming for war. Director Hannah Walsh stood in the command center of Salus Prime Colony. Her eyes were fixed on the display screen showing the Korthian ships surrounding them. 20 warships. All of them had their weapons pointed at the colony. Their shields were failing. Time was running out. Director, the Korthians are sending another message, said Lieutenant Nix. His skin was covered in small lights that flickered when he was nervous. Right now they were flickering a lot. They want our answer in 12 hours. If we don't surrender, they will start shooting. Hannah took a deep breath. 12 hours. The council had promised help was coming, but she did not know when. She did not even know who was coming. All she knew was that they needed to hold on just a little longer. Suddenly, every alarm in the command center started blaring. Red lights flashed everywhere. Nix looked at his console in shock. Director! Multiple ships just appeared at the edge of the system. They came out of hyperspace. I'm counting 20 ships. No, wait, 30. The sensors are still detecting more. There are over 50 ships out there. Is it the hegemony? Hannah asked quickly. Her heart was pounding. No, Nick said, checking his readings again. These ships are different. They're smaller, but much denser. The sensor readings don't match anything in our database. Wait, they're sending identification codes now. Director, these are human ships. Hannah felt her stomach drop. Humans. The council had called the humans for help. She did not know whether to feel relieved or terrified. Everyone had heard the stories about humans and their violent nature. The main view screen changed to show the incoming fleet. Hannah stared at the human ships in amazement. They looked nothing like the ships of other species. Most galactic ships were smooth and elegant, designed to look beautiful as well as functional. Human ships looked mean. They were covered in armor plating and weapon systems. Every ship looked like it was built for one purpose only: fighting. In the center of the formation was the biggest ship Hannah had ever seen. It was marked as the UNS Valiant. It was huge and intimidating, covered in guns and missile tubes. Just looking at it made her feel small. A voice came through the communication system. It was deep and rough. Director Walsh, this is Admiral Kyle Morrison of the United Nations Expeditionary Fleet. We got your distress call. Can you tell us what's happening? Hannah quickly explained everything. The Korthian blockade, their demands, the 12-hour deadline. Morrison listened quietly without interrupting. When she finished, Morrison spoke again. Understood. You asked for help. You're going to get it. We're moving to engage the Korthian fleet now. Keep your people in the shelters and keep your shields at maximum. This is going to get messy." The human fleet did not waste any time. They accelerated toward Sal's Prime at incredible speed. Most species approached planets carefully and slowly to save fuel. The humans just burned straight toward the colony like they were in a race. War Master Drask commanded the Korthian fleet from his flagship. He watched the human ships approaching and felt annoyed rather than worried. He had heard stories about humans, but stories were often exaggerated. He had 20 powerful warships. His crews were experienced warriors. These humans were about to learn a painful lesson about challenging the Korthian dominion. "Open a channel to the human flagship," Drask ordered. When the connection opened, Drask spoke with confidence. "Human vessels, you are interfering in Korthian military business. This system belongs to us now. Leave immediately or we will destroy you." The human admiral appeared on the screen. He was older than Drask expected, with gray hair and scars on his face. His eyes were cold and hard. This was someone who had seen many battles. "War Master Drask," Morrison said calmly, "I'm going to give you one chance. Power down your weapons and leave the system right now. If you do that, nobody has to die today," Drask laughed. "You dare threaten me? Look at your sensors. We have 20 warships. You might have 50 ships, but they're smaller than ours. You're outnumbered and outgunned. This is your last warning. Leave now or face complete destruction." Morrison's expression did not change. "I see, then let me explain something to you. These colonists asked for allies. They asked for help and protection. But the Deathworlders' fleet came for war. All ships, weapons free. Engage at will," the communication cut off. Drask barely had time to process what Morrison had said before the human fleet opened fire. Missiles poured out of the human ships by the hundreds. They accelerated at speeds that seemed impossible. Drask watched in growing alarm as the missiles dodged and weaved through his defensive fire like they were alive. Within seconds, 3 of his outer ships were hit. Their shields collapsed under the impact and explosions ripped through their hulls. "Return fire," Drask shouted. "All weapons, maximum power." The Korthian fleet launched their weapons. Plasma bolts and energy beams shot across space toward the human ships. Drask watched them strike the human vessels directly, but nothing happened. The human shields absorbed every hit without even flickering. It was like shooting at a solid wall. The weapons that could destroy most ships barely made the human shields glow. "Impossible," Drask's tactical officer shouted. "Their shields are 3 times stronger than our predictions. How are they generating that much power?" Then Drask understood. Humans built their ships to survive on and around Earth. Earth was a death world with radiation, extreme weather, and constant dangers. Human shields were designed to protect against all of that. The Korthian weapons were weak compared to what human ships faced every day in their home system. The human fleet split into groups with perfect coordination. Smaller ships moved to the sides while the big battleships moved straight forward. Fighter craft poured out of the carriers like angry insects. Each one was piloted by a human who had trained in simulations more brutal than this real battle. "Evasive action," Drask ordered. "Focus all fire on their flagship." 5 Korthian warships turned all their weapons on the UNS Valiant. Energy powerful enough to melt through fortress walls hit the human ship all at once. The shields glowed bright white and held firm. Morrison's voice came through on the open channel. "Nice try. Our turn." The Valiant's main guns fired. Unlike most species who used energy weapons, humans used mass drivers. Giant pieces of metal accelerated to tremendous speeds. When they hit, they did not burn through shields. They just punched straight through everything. Drask's flagship shook violently as a projectile tore through the front shields like they were not even there. The metal slug carved through armor, through walls, through systems, and out the back of the ship. Air rushed out into space. Explosions started spreading through the vessel. "Abandon the main bridge," Drask ordered, pulling himself toward the emergency exit. "Move to the backup command center." All around him, the Korthian fleet was being torn apart. Human fighters swarmed damaged ships, their weapons cutting through armor with precision. The big human warships moved through the battle like predators, choosing targets and destroying them efficiently. On Sal's Prime, Hannah watched the battle on her screens. She had expected a fierce fight. What she saw instead was total domination. The humans were not just winning. They were crushing the Korthians with ease. "How are they doing this?" Nyx whispered. "The Korthians are supposed to be strong. How are the humans just destroying them like this?" Hannah understood now. Because they're from Earth. Everything about them was shaped by that terrible planet. They learned to survive where nothing else could. They learned to fight against nature itself. Compared to Earth, the Korthians are easy. The battle lasted only 30 minutes. 12 Korthian ships were destroyed. 6 more were crippled and dead in space. The last 2 ships, including Drask's damaged flagship, tried to run away. Let them go, Morrison ordered his fleet. They can tell their leaders what happens when you attack our friends. The 2 surviving Korthian ships jumped to hyperspace and fled. The human fleet formed a protective circle around Sal's Prime. The battle was over. The colony was saved. Hannah sat down slowly, her legs shaking. They had asked for help. What they got was something much more powerful. They got the full force of humanity's war machine, and it was terrifying. The human fleet stayed in orbit around Sal's Prime after the battle. Their ships formed a protective ring around the colony. Small shuttlecraft flew down from the big warships carrying repair crews and supplies. Director Hannah Walsh met Admiral Kyle Morrison in person for the first time. He was tall and looked strong even though his hair was gray. His uniform was clean and neat despite the battle. When he shook her hand, his grip was firm but not too hard. It felt respectful. Admiral Morrison, Hannah said. She was still trying to find the right words. I don't know how to thank you. You saved everyone here. You saved our entire colony. What you did was amazing. Morrison nodded. You called for help, we came. That's what friends do for each other. He paused and his face became more serious. But I need you to understand something, Director. What you saw today was not us being aggressive. It was a lesson. The Korthians needed to learn that attacking our friends has serious consequences. I understand, Hannah said. Though I have to admit your military power surprised me. Most species in the galaxy use their fleets mainly for defense. They try to avoid fighting when possible. We're not like most species, Morrison said simply. Humanity learned a long time ago that the best way to defend yourself is to hit back so hard that nobody wants to fight you again. Our planet taught us that lesson over and over. We had to adapt or we would have died out. Now we use those same lessons to protect ourselves and our allies. Over the next few days, human engineers worked with the Valerian colonists to fix everything damaged during the siege. Hannah was impressed by how efficient they were. She was also surprised by how gentle the human soldiers were with the colonists. Despite all the scary stories about humans being violent, they were actually kind and patient. Hannah spent time with one of the human officers named Commander Lisa Grant. Lisa was in charge of the repair work. She was probably in her 30s with short dark hair and a friendly smile. Your people are very different from what I expected, Hannah said as they walked around the repaired shield generator. I was told humans were violent and unpredictable. But everyone here has been so helpful and kind. We can be violent, Lisa said honestly. But violence is just a tool. It's not who we are as people. We use it when we have to, but we don't enjoy it. Earth taught us to be fierce when we're threatened and cooperative when we're safe. Both are part of our nature. Still, Hannah said carefully, many species in the galaxy are afraid of humanity. They see you as future conquerors. They think you'll eventually try to take over everything. Lisa was quiet for a moment, thinking, I won't pretend we're perfect. Human history has a lot of wars and mistakes, but we learned from all of that. We learned that working together gives better results than conquering others. That's why we answered your distress call. Not because we wanted your colony for ourselves, but because you asked for help and we could give it. Do you really believe that? Hannah asked. That humans have changed that much? Yes, Lisa said firmly. Look at what we're doing right now. We came here, we fought to protect you, and now we're helping you rebuild. We're not demanding payment. We're not asking for territory. We're just helping because it's the right thing to do. That's what humanity has become. Back on the Valerian homeworld, Ambassador Krell was reading reports about the battle. He felt relieved that Salus Prime was saved, but also worried. The humans had destroyed a Korthian fleet in less than an hour. That kind of power changed everything in this part of space. We need to talk about this, Krell told the council. The human fleet just wiped out a Korthian armada like it was nothing. The balance of power in our sector has completely changed. Are you saying we should fear the people who rescued us? Asked Representative Mira. I'm saying we need to understand them, Krell explained. The humans have military power far beyond anything else in this region. They're not acting like conquerors, but they're not passive either. We need to know what they want from us. Vera spoke up from her seat. I've been talking with Admiral Morrison. He wants to meet with us formally. The humans want to create a permanent alliance with the Valerian Assembly. They're also inviting any other species who want to join. It would be a mutual defense agreement. A military alliance? Krelnor asked, surprised. Yes, Vera confirmed. They're proposing what they call a mutual defense pact. If any member is attacked, all members respond together. It would create a new power group in this region of space. The council room erupted with voices. Everyone started talking at once. Some members thought this was a great opportunity to get protection from dangerous neighbors like the Corthians. Others worried about becoming too dependent on human military strength. What do humans get from this? Representative Yolvan demanded. They don't need our resources. Their technology is already advanced. Why would they offer us protection for free? Because that's what allies do, Vera said, repeating Morrison's earlier words. Humans learned on their dangerous planet that survival requires strong friendships and cooperation. They're offering us the same protection they offer each other. They want friends, not subjects. But what if they change their minds later? Another representative asked. What if this is just the first step toward controlling us? Vera stood up slowly. That is always a risk with any alliance. But consider our alternatives. Without the humans, the Corthians would have taken Salus Prime. They would probably try to take more of our colonies. Other aggressive species would see us as weak and vulnerable. With the humans as allies, we have protection. Yes, they are powerful and potentially dangerous. But right now that danger is pointed at our enemies, not at us. Krelnor thought about everything carefully. The humans had saved Salus Prime without asking for anything in return. They had treated the colonists well. Their soldiers had been respectful and helpful. But they also had terrifying military power. Power that could destroy fleets in minutes. I think we should meet with Admiral Morrison, Krelnor finally said. We should hear what the humans are proposing in detail. Then we can make an informed decision. The council agreed. A formal meeting was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Representatives from multiple species would attend. The humans were offering something new to the galaxy, an alliance based on mutual protection rather than conquest or trade. As Krelnor prepared for the meeting, he thought about everything that had happened. A few weeks ago, they had been desperate and afraid. They had sent a distress call asking for allies. The humans had responded, but not with diplomats and negotiations. They had responded with their full military force. The message had been clear and brutal. Attack our friends and you face complete destruction. It was a Deathworlders' approach to alliance. No half measures, no compromises. Just overwhelming force in defense of those they chose to protect. It was terrifying, but it was also exactly what the galaxy needed. Too many aggressive species had been expanding unchecked. The peaceful civilizations had no way to stop them. Now there was a power that could stand up to the aggressors, a species whose entire evolution had prepared them for conflict. We asked for allies, Krelnor said quietly to himself, and the Deathworlders came for war. But maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe that's exactly what we needed. The question now was whether humanity could be trusted with that power. Could a species born from violence truly build something peaceful? Krelnor hoped the answer was yes, because if it was not, the galaxy had just gained a new threat far more dangerous than the Corthians. But if the answer was yes, if humans really meant what they said about cooperation and mutual defense, then the galaxy was about to change in ways nobody could predict. The age of unchecked aggression might finally be coming to an end. 3 months after the Battle of Salus Prime, representatives from 15 different species gathered at a neutral space station called Meridian Point. The humans had organized this meeting to discuss what they called the Cooperative Defense Initiative. It was a fancy name for a military alliance. Ambassador Krelnor attended on behalf of the Valerian Assembly. He sat across from Admiral Morrison and a human diplomat named Secretary Martin Hughes. Hughes was younger than Morrison but carried himself with similar confidence and authority. Thank you all for coming, Hughes began the meeting. 3 months ago, the colony at Salus Prime was about to be destroyed. Today, that colony is safe and growing. The Corthian Dominion has pulled back from the entire sector. This is what we can achieve when we work together. You mean this is what overwhelming military force can achieve, said Representative Lirsha. She was from the Therian Confederation and known for being very cautious. Let's be honest about what happened. This was a display of power, not cooperation. It was both, Morrison said calmly. Yes, we showed our military strength, but we did it to defend allies, not to conquer territory. The Corthians got the message. So did every other aggressive empire in this region of space. And what stops you from using that power against us? Leadership pressed. You're asking us to trust you based on one rescue mission. How do we know you won't turn on us later? Hughes nodded. That's a fair question. Let me be completely honest with you. Humanity could conquer this entire sector if we wanted to. Our technology is decades ahead of most species here. Our military is stronger than anything in this region. But conquest is expensive, destructive, and ultimately pointless. He activated a holographic display showing Earth rotating slowly. Our home planet taught us important lessons. We spent thousands of years fighting each other before we finally learned that cooperation gives better results than conquest. We don't want to rule over you. We want to work with you as equals. Partners who provide what exactly? Krelnor asked. He wanted to understand what humans expected in return for their protection. Knowledge, resources, and diversity, Morrison answered. Every species here has unique abilities. The Valerians are experts in biotechnology. The Therians have incredible computational skills. The Crystarians understand energy better than anyone. We bring military protection and advanced engineering. Together, we're stronger than any single empire could ever be. For several hours, the delegates debated the details of the alliance. The humans were surprisingly flexible about most things. They accepted changes and addressed concerns patiently, but they insisted on 3 core rules that could not be changed. First, any member species under attack would get immediate help from all other members. The humans would provide most of the combat fleet. Second, all members would share their scientific knowledge and technology freely with each other. Third, no member could start a war without everyone in the alliance agreeing. These rules basically make humanity the military arm of this alliance, observed Representative Yolvan. You'll be doing most of the fighting and taking most of the risk in any conflict. We're willing to take that risk, Morrison confirmed. War is something we understand very well. Let us handle the fighting so you can focus on what your species does best. That's the whole point of the alliance. Krelnor studied Morrison carefully. The Admiral's face showed honesty and openness. Either humans were incredibly good at lying, or they really meant what they said. Krelnor wanted to believe it was the latter. I have a question, Krelnor said. When we first sent our distress call, we asked for allies. You responded by saying the Deathworlders' fleet came for war. What exactly did you mean by that? Morrison smiled slightly. It was a statement of intent. You asked for allies, which usually means diplomacy and long negotiations. But we're from Earth, we don't negotiate with bullies. When someone threatens our friends, we don't send diplomats to talk. We send warships to fight. The Korthians needed to understand that attacking human allies means facing the full force of human military power. Consider it a warning to anyone else who might have similar ideas. So you came to Salus Prime planning to fight, not to negotiate, Krelnor said. We came prepared to fight, Morrison corrected. There's an important difference. We gave War Master Drask a chance to leave peacefully. He chose violence instead. We simply responded with overwhelming force to make sure the message was clear, and the conflict ended quickly. The faster a war ends, the fewer people die on both sides. Hughes added his own thoughts. That's the core of human military philosophy. We prefer peace, but we're always ready for war. When conflict becomes unavoidable, we end it as fast as possible to reduce suffering. A war that lasts weeks or months kills more people than a war that lasts an hour. The summit continued for 3 full days. Delegates asked hundreds of questions. They debated every detail of the proposed alliance. The humans answered everything patiently and honestly. They never got angry or defensive. They just explained their reasoning clearly. Slowly, the other species began to see that humans really meant what they said. This was not a trick or a trap. The humans genuinely wanted to build an alliance of equals, where they provided military protection in exchange for cooperation and friendship. In the end, 12 species signed the Cooperative Defense Initiative. The Valerian Assembly signed first, followed by the Therian Confederation and 10 others. It was the largest military alliance in the sector's history, and it was built around humanity's military power. As the delegates prepared to leave Meridian Point, Krelnor stood beside Vera at an observation window. They watched the human fleet maintaining perfect formation around the station. The ships looked as dangerous as ever, but now they felt less threatening. Now they were protectors rather than potential invaders. You were right to suggest calling them, Krelnor admitted. I was afraid of what they might do. Instead, they saved us and offered real partnership. They're still dangerous, Vera reminded him. Never forget that. but danger directed at our enemies instead of us. That's the best kind of ally to have. Krelnor nodded slowly. We asked for allies. We got protectors. Fierce, violent, overwhelming protectors from a planet that tried to kill them every single day. Maybe that's exactly what this part of the galaxy needed. The Deathworlders came for war, Vera said quietly, looking out at the human fleet. But they brought peace. It's strange how that works. On the UNS Valiant, Admiral Morrison reviewed reports from his fleet commanders. The ships had taken minimal damage at Salus Prime. Crew morale was high. The new alliance was forming exactly as humanity had hoped it would. Commander Lisa Grant entered his office carrying a data pad. Admiral, we're getting requests from 6 more species who want to join the Cooperative Defense Initiative. Word is spreading fast about what happened at Salus Prime and about this alliance. Good, Morrison said with satisfaction. The more members we have, the stronger the alliance becomes. And the stronger we are, the less likely anyone will dare to challenge us. That means fewer wars and fewer deaths. Some of my officers are concerned, though, Lisa said carefully. They worry we're building an empire and just calling it something else. Morrison shook his head firmly. Empires rule through fear and oppression. They take away freedom. We're building something completely different. This is an alliance of equals where humanity provides protection in exchange for cooperation and friendship. Every member keeps complete control of their own government and territory. We just make sure nobody can take that freedom away by force. Do you really believe that? Lisa asked. That we can have this much power and not abuse it? I do, Morrison said with conviction. Earth taught us hard lessons about what happens when power is misused. Our entire history is full of examples of empires that collapsed because they were built on oppression. We learned from those mistakes. This is our chance to prove we can do better. To be better than our ancestors were, Lisa smiled. For a species known as Deathworlders, we're surprisingly idealistic about all this. Maybe that's exactly why we're idealistic, Morrison replied thoughtfully. We know firsthand what happens when power is abused. We've seen the results of conquest and oppression throughout our history. This alliance is our chance to show the galaxy that strength doesn't have to mean domination. It can mean protection instead. He turned back to look at the space station through the window. Supply ships moved between the human fleet and Meridian Point. The Cooperative Defense Initiative was just beginning, but Morrison felt confident it would succeed. Humanity had learned from its violent past. Now they could use their strength for something better than conquest. They had been asked for allies. The Deathworlders' fleet had come for war. But in the end, they were bringing something far more valuable than either military might or diplomatic agreements. They were bringing hope for a different kind of future. 6 months after the Cooperative Defense Initiative was formed, the alliance had grown beyond anyone's expectations. What started with 12 species now included 23 members. More species were applying to join every week. The word had spread across the sector about what humanity offered: real protection without the cost of freedom. Ambassador Krelnor stood in his office on the Valerian homeworld, looking at reports from across the alliance. Human ships now patrolled multiple systems. They had stopped 3 attempted invasions by aggressive empires. Each time, they had given the attackers one chance to withdraw peacefully. Each time, the attackers had refused. And each time, the human fleet had ended the conflict in less than an hour. The pattern was always the same. The humans would arrive with overwhelming force. They would offer terms for peaceful withdrawal. If those terms were rejected, they would attack with devastating efficiency. But they never went beyond what was necessary. They disabled enemy ships rather than destroying them when possible. They allowed retreating vessels to escape. They never pursued defeated enemies into their home territories. They're keeping their promises, Vera said as she entered his office. The old diplomat moved slowly these days, but her mind was as sharp as ever. The humans do exactly what they said they would do. They protect us and then leave us alone to govern ourselves. I'm starting to believe they really mean it, Krelnor admitted. They could easily take control of any member species. We're all dependent on their military now, but they haven't tried to influence our government or our decisions at all. They just defend us when we're attacked. I told you, Vera said with a small smile. Humans are different. Their violent history taught them what not to do. They learned from watching empires fall. Now they're trying something new. On Salus Prime, Director Hannah Walsh walked through the colony's new marketplace. It had been completely rebuilt after the siege, and now it was bustling with activity. Valerian colonists traded with human engineers who had stayed to help. Merchants from other Alliance species had set up shops. The colony that had nearly died was now thriving. Commander Lisa Grant walked beside her. Lisa had requested a transfer to remain on Sal's Prime. She said she wanted to see the colony fully recover. Hannah suspected Lisa had also grown to like the peaceful Valerian way of life. "It's amazing what you've all built here," Lisa said, looking around at the busy marketplace. 6 months ago, this place was a war zone. Now look at it. "We couldn't have done it without your people," Hannah said honestly. "The human engineers worked as hard as our own colonists. You gave us supplies and expertise. You asked for nothing in return. That's what allies do," Lisa said simply. "We help each other. Your people are teaching us about advanced biotechnology. Our engineers are learning things we never would have discovered on our own. It's a fair exchange. Still," Hannah said, "I have to ask, why does humanity do this? You could rule this entire sector by force. Your military is strong enough. Why choose cooperation instead?" Lisa stopped walking and turned to face Hannah directly. "Because we tried the other way. For thousands of years on Earth, we tried conquest and domination. We built empires and watched them collapse. We fought wars that killed millions. We oppressed each other and suffered for it. Eventually, we learned that power used to control others always leads to disaster." She gestured at the marketplace around them. "This is what works. Mutual respect. Free cooperation. Each species contributing what they're best at. Everyone benefits and nobody loses their freedom. It's not perfect, but it's better than any empire ever was." Across the sector, other species were learning the same lesson. The Therian Confederation had initially been very suspicious of human intentions. Now they were some of the Alliance's strongest supporters. The humans had defended 2 Therian colonies from raiders without being asked, and had left immediately afterward without demanding anything. The Crystarians had worried that humans would steal their energy technology. Instead, humans had shared their own advanced engineering techniques freely. The exchange of knowledge had benefited both species enormously. Even species that had not joined the Alliance were being affected. The aggressive empires that had been expanding unchecked for decades suddenly found themselves unable to attack anyone without facing human intervention. Several of them had tried to challenge the humans and had been defeated decisively. Word spread quickly. Attacking members of the Cooperative Defense Initiative meant war with humanity, and war with humanity meant certain defeat. On the UNS Valiant, Admiral Morrison prepared for a video conference with the Alliance Council. Every 2 weeks, he gave them an update on fleet activities and security concerns. It was part of the transparency the humans had promised. They did not want members to fear them or wonder what the fleet was doing. "Admiral, the Council is ready for you," Commander Lisa Grant said. She was visiting the Valiant for the meeting before returning to Sal's Prime. Morrison activated the holographic display. Representatives from all 23 member species appeared around the virtual table. Krelnor spoke first as the senior ambassador. "Admiral Morrison, I'm pleased to report that the Council has voted to make today's anniversary official. 6 months ago, the Cooperative Defense Initiative was formed. We propose making this date a holiday for all member species, Alliance Day." Morrison smiled. "That's a wonderful gesture, but I'd like to propose a different name if you don't mind. Instead of Alliance Day, what about Cooperation Day? This isn't just about military alliance. It's about what we can achieve by working together across all our differences." The council members looked at each other and nodded. Representative Lirsha, who had been so suspicious at the first meeting, spoke up. "I support Admiral Morrison's suggestion. This alliance has become about much more than military defense. It's about building something new together." After the meeting ended, Lisa approached Morrison. "You're really good at this, you know. Making everyone feel valued and heard. That's not a skill most military commanders have." "It's the most important skill," Morrison replied. "Military power means nothing if the people you're protecting don't trust you. We could have the strongest fleet in the galaxy and still fail if we can't build genuine relationships with our allies." "Do you think it will last?" Lisa asked. "This alliance, this cooperation. Can it really work long-term?" Morrison looked out at the stars through the viewport. "I think it has to work. The alternative is endless conflict. Empires rising and falling, species conquering and being conquered. We've seen where that leads throughout history. This alliance represents something different. a chance to build security through cooperation rather than domination. But it requires humanity to stay true to its principles, Lisa pointed out. We have to resist the temptation to use our power for control. That won't be easy, especially as we get stronger. You're right, Morrison agreed. That's why we need people like you asking these questions. The moment we stop questioning ourselves, the moment we start thinking we deserve special privileges because we're strong, that's when we'll become exactly what these species feared we would be. Back on the Valerian homeworld, Krelnor and Vera watched a news broadcast about the new holiday. Species across the Alliance were celebrating Cooperation Day with festivals and cultural exchanges. Humans were teaching other species about Earth's diverse cultures. Other species were sharing their own traditions and knowledge. It's beautiful, Vera said quietly. 6 months ago, I suggested calling the humans because we were desperate. I never imagined it would lead to this. You saw something the rest of us didn't, Krelnor said. You saw that humans could be more than just warriors, that their strength could build instead of destroy. I hoped, Vera corrected. I didn't know for certain, but I believed that any species that survived a death world must have learned not just how to fight, but how to cooperate. You can't survive a planet like Earth alone. You need community. You need trust. The humans brought those lessons with them to space. Krelnor nodded slowly. We asked for allies. The Deathworlders' fleet came for war, but they brought something we didn't even know we needed. They brought a new way of thinking about power and cooperation. They showed us that strength doesn't have to mean conquest. The galaxy is changing, Vera said, and for once it's changing for the better. All because one species from a terrible planet learned the value of friendship. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the celebrations continue across the Alliance. The future was uncertain, as it always was, but for the first time in a long time it felt full of hope rather than fear. The Deathworlders had indeed come for war, but they had stayed for peace. 5 years had passed since the Battle of Sol's Prime. The Cooperative Defense Initiative had transformed the entire sector. What began as a desperate call for help had become the foundation of a new era. 37 species were now members of the Alliance. Trade flourished. Scientific cooperation produced discoveries none of the species could have achieved alone. And the human fleet kept watch, ever vigilant but never threatening. Director Hannah Walsh, now promoted to regional coordinator for the entire sector, stood in a newly built plaza on Sol's Prime. A monument had been constructed to honor the battle that started everything. The design incorporated artistic elements from all member species, showing how different cultures could blend into something beautiful. At the center stood a sculpture of a human frigate, rendered in crystal and metal, representing both strength and transparency. Admiral Kyle Morrison attended the dedication ceremony. He was older now, his hair completely white, and he would retire in a few months. But his presence still commanded respect from everyone who saw him. He had become a living symbol of what the Alliance stood for: strength used responsibly, power wielded with restraint. Thank you for coming, Admiral, Hannah said as they stood before the monument together. This colony exists because of you and your fleet. We would all be dead or enslaved without your intervention. This colony exists because you had the courage to ask for help, Morrison replied gently, and because you trusted us when you had every reason to be afraid. That trust created something bigger than any of us could have imagined alone. They watched as colonists from multiple species gathered for the ceremony. Valerians talked with Therians. Crystarians worked alongside human engineers. Children from different species played together in the plaza. The air was filled with dozens of different languages, all united by mutual respect and shared purpose. Did you ever imagine it would grow this large? Hannah asked, gesturing at the diverse crowd. Morrison smiled. I hoped it would. Humanity learned a long time ago that we're stronger when we work together. We just needed an opportunity to share that lesson with the rest of the galaxy. Your distress call gave us that chance. You trusted us with your survival, and we tried to prove worthy of that trust. You did more than that, Hannah said softly. You showed us a different way to think about power. Before you arrived, everyone assumed strength meant domination. The strong conquered the weak. That was just how things were. You proved that strength could mean protection instead. That power could build rather than destroy. The dedication ceremony began. Representatives from all 37 member species spoke about what the Alliance meant to them. Each told stories of how cooperation had benefited their people. Scientists talked about breakthroughs made possible by shared knowledge. Merchants discussed new trade routes and opportunities. Parents spoke about a future where their children would grow up safe and free. When it was Morrison's turn to speak, he approached the podium slowly. He looked out at the assembled crowd, seeing faces from dozens of different species, all watching him with respect rather than fear. 5 years ago, Morrison began, Ambassador Krellnor sent a simple message. He asked for help. He asked for allies. And humanity responded the only way we knew how. We came ready for war. We came with weapons and warships and all the tools of destruction that our violent history had taught us to create. He paused, letting his words settle. But war was just the beginning. The real work started after the battle ended. Building trust, creating cooperation, learning to work together despite our differences. That's been harder than any battle, but also more rewarding. Humanity comes from Earth, a planet that tried to kill us in countless ways. We survived by learning 2 essential lessons. First, we learned to be fierce when threatened. Second, and more importantly, we learned to cooperate when safe. Both lessons were necessary for survival. Both are still necessary today. He gestured at the monument behind him. This sculpture represents what we've built together. It's made of crystal from the Crystarians, metal from the Valerians, and designed using Therian computational methods. It shows a human ship, but it exists because of everyone's contributions. That's what this alliance really is. Each species bringing their unique strengths, creating something none of us could build alone. Some people feared that humanity would use our military power to dominate others. That fear was reasonable. History is full of powerful species who became oppressors, but we learned from that history. We learned that empires built on force always collapse eventually. The only lasting strength comes from genuine cooperation and mutual respect. Morrison's voice grew stronger. So yes, we came for war. We came ready to fight and destroy if necessary, but we stayed for peace. We stayed to build friendships. We stayed because we found something worth protecting, not through conquest, but through partnership. The crowd erupted in applause, not just polite appreciation, but genuine enthusiasm. Morrison stepped back from the podium, feeling emotion he had not expected. This was why he had spent his entire career in service, not for glory or power, but for moments like this, moments when different species could gather peacefully, united by choice rather than force. After the ceremony, Ambassador Krellnor approached Morrison. The Valerian diplomat had aged as well, his once vibrant colors now faded slightly, but his eyes were bright with satisfaction. I have something to confess, Admiral, Krellnor said quietly. When I sent that distress call 5 years ago, I was terrified. Not just of the Corthians, but of you. I had heard so many stories about human violence. I thought we might be trading one enemy for another. That fear was understandable, Morrison replied. We are capable of great violence. We can't deny our nature or our history. But you proved the stories wrong, Krellnor continued. Yes, you're fierce in battle. Yes, your military power is overwhelming. But you're also capable of great kindness and restraint. You defended us without trying to control us. You shared your knowledge without demanding payment. You kept every promise you made. We're trying, Morrison said simply. Every day we try to be better than our ancestors were. To use our strength for protection rather than oppression. It's not always easy, but it's always worth the effort. Vera, the elderly diplomat who had first suggested calling the humans, joined them. She moved slowly now, supported by a walking aid, but her crystalline features still caught the light beautifully. I knew, she said softly. When I suggested contacting humanity, I knew you would come for war. That's what Deathworlders do, but I also believed you would stay for peace. That's what survivors do. How did you know? Morrison asked curiously. Everyone else feared we would become conquerors. Because no species survives a death world alone, Vera explained. Earth tried to kill you for millions of years. You only survived by learning to trust each other, to cooperate, to build communities. That lesson runs deeper than any violent instinct. I gambled that humanity had learned cooperation better than they had learned war. I'm glad I was right. As the sun set over Sal's Prime, casting long shadows across the plaza, Morrison reflected on the journey. 5 years ago, he had brought a fleet to this system ready to fight. He had expected a battle, maybe a series of battles. What he found instead was an opportunity to build something lasting. The Cooperative Defense Initiative had proven that different species could work together as equals. That military strength did not have to mean oppression. That the lessons learned on a violent death world could be used to create peace rather than perpetuate conflict. The monument's inscription was written in every language of the Alliance. Morrison read the human version one more time, feeling pride in what it represented. They asked for allies, but the Deathworlders' fleet came for war. And in that willingness to fight, they forged a peace that would endure for generations. Commander Lisa Grant, who had chosen to make Salus Prime her permanent home, stood beside Hannah, watching the sunset. "It's beautiful, isn't it? What we've all built together." "It is," Hannah agreed. "5 years ago I thought this colony was doomed. Now it's a symbol of hope for the entire sector, all because your people decided that strength should protect rather than conquer. That's the legacy Admiral Morrison is leaving," Lisa said. "He showed the galaxy that even a species from a death world, a species capable of terrible violence, can choose peace. Can choose to use their power to help others rather than dominate them." As night fell over Salus Prime, the plaza remained full of people from different worlds, different cultures, all celebrating together. The monument stood as a reminder of where they had been and a promise of where they could go. The Deathworlders had come for war, but they had given the galaxy something far more precious. They had given it hope, and that hope would shine brighter than any weapon ever could.